Welcome to the Ascension Path with Twin Essence. I'm Lacey.
And I'm Marley, and we're your Starseed Lightworker and Psychic Medium hosts.
We're identical twins with spiritual abilities and Starseed missions on Earth. On the Ascension Path, we discuss what it's like to be identical twins serving in a spiritual capacity and provide insights into our work as Starseeds. We create a sacred space to receive channeled messages, intuitive teachings, and expansive conversations that elevate your frequency and support your evolution. Join us to learn about navigating the path to Ascension and becoming the most authentic, aligned version of you. Take what resonates and leave the rest. Happy Halloween, listeners. Lacey and I love Halloween. If you follow along on social media, you know that we love Halloween. As soon as their birthdays pass in August, we start to get in that fall mood. When September hits, you can bet that we are probably decorating for Halloween and ready for fall. Also, growing up in the Midwest, fall had the best weather. Let's just be honest, fall has superior weather to any other season. I mean, we're talking about jeans, sweaters, flannels. From a fashion perspective, I don't think it gets much better than that. Spooky season, really, we were the OG pioneers of that before it became cool to actually call it spooky season. Are you kidding me? This was our whole childhoods, and we didn't need a season to do spooky activities. We're spooky all year round, let's be honest. So it's the best time of the year, but I would say it's also just a time of the year where it's more socially acceptable to lean into the Halloween spirit and scary movies and darker themes and topics, maybe things like ghosts, whatever people might perceive as being scary activities. But really, any point in the year, Lacey and I, you can bet that we are interested in anything haunted, any scary or horror movies we're interested in. That's just naturally always where we were drawn growing up when we talk about the paranormal and ghost stories and stories about anything that was outside the realm of what we thought at the time was 3D possibility. For sure. I mean, we literally couldn't get enough of it as kids. During Halloween season, we were very into dressing up for the holiday, but it was our goal to find a scary costume because we were not into dressing up as these light and fun beings or things. We wanted to be like scary creatures or ghosts. Really, we were upset. Yeah, that's so true. We never wanted to be like feminine as young females. We just felt like everybody always gravitated towards like, I want to be a princess or I want to be a fairy. And we were like, that's not the point. The point is you're supposed to be able to scare things. I mean, come on, like it's All Hallows Eve. Spirits are going to come back from the dead. I mean, isn't the whole point of costumes is to be scary? So we really took that, I think, and ran with it while all of our other friends were interested in being non-scary, I guess, costumes, if you want to put it that way. I think back to when I put together an entire Medusa costume with the snake hair and all. And that's actually a dark goddess now when I look back. It's a dark goddess. I was very ahead of my time during that year. And that was one of my costumes that I did. I also did a Lily Munster, like Bride of Frankenstein look, because I was really into the face paint and the wig and all of that. I even did a really cool gnarly zombie one as well. Oh, that's right. I oftentimes did extreme makeup, like face painting makeup or like masks. So I was a werewolf for many years. Not surprising, right? We know that wolf is my spirit animal. So naturally, I always wanted to be a werewolf. And I was for so many years. And I felt like such a cool kid when I would run around in that costume with the mask on because whenever we would trick or treat, there would always be boys, and then they'd see my long hair hanging out the back of the mask. A girl, like I can be a werewolf too, you know, like girls can be werewolves. So that was always a big deal to me. If I think about my costumes, I know I had a really creepy pumpkin lord type one, it was a really tall mask and the eyes would glow in the dark. Actually, it was a very normal thing for me. People would, like their kids would take pictures with me all the time. And so one of the things, like I remember always having to be like, guys, stand next to her and getting pictures taken with me. I always thought that meant that I achieved something with my costume if people thought it was cool enough to take a photo of it. So I remember the pumpkin one, and then just I think about like even in high school, like when we had like playoff football games on Halloween, and I would just paint really creepy skeleton makeup on and things like that for the game just to be cool. Really activating that celebrity energy with the picture from childhood. I mean, it's a Leo sun, right? It's a Leo sun coming out like in spooky season, like that's how we thrive, right? And we love a theme. We still love a theme, not even just on Halloween, but we like themes. Yes, we do. It's a thing. We don't want to be underdressed. We don't necessarily want to be overdressed, but if it's a theme that we love, we're going to go all out at that theme. Oh, yeah, we will. Halloween was always a really fun time of year for the two of us. And we felt like it was a time when we could be talking about the things that we wanted to talk about, but we couldn't talk about all year round. So whether that be spiritual topics like ghosts and scary stories, we were always asking family for more haunted stories. It was kind of our obsession back in the day. When you think about it, it was a hall pass to talk about those things and wanting to hear more about it. I even think about the witchcraft idea, and Lacey and I definitely had witch costumes growing up, and we would always run around pretending to be witches, I guess, whatever that looks like as a kid. But I think about where things like that topic has come today, where there's a lot of books and resources out there on how to be a witch or just spells and intention setting. And when I say witch, I mean more like white witch or spells that people use in their spiritual or ritualistic practices, if you will. So not in a negative or dark way, but I just think it's interesting how far we've come since then. We used to, when we were really little, play as witches because we were very into the idea of this craft and otherworldly magic. Now it's kind of funny, even during our first spiritual awakenings, initially, like we love the witchiness of it, and we've always been very big into embracing that. It's sort of ironic and weird to us that there are still people that get very offended by it and think it's really negative or dark or bad. And I think that's just because they don't understand witchcraft and they don't understand the version of it that maybe resonates with them. Now we love it. Let's embrace that kind of thing. We don't need to hide it so much. I'm not offended if people call me a witch, but I do know people that are offended by that kind of thing. I would say it's not a heavy part of our practices, like witchy things aren't. No. And it's such a subjective term, but we know so many people who get really offended by that to this day. Lacey and I always say, who cares? Most of us have probably been witches in a past life, so who cares? At this point, it's really not as taboo. I think some people think it is. For sure. I also think about how we used to experiment with ghosts when we were kids, and we would want to move things around in the room and set the intentions with whatever spirits or ghosts were around in the house to move things and make contact with them. Obviously, now looking back, I'm like, wow, we were just communicating with spirit and wanting external validation. If somebody would have only just bought us a pendulum, man, we could have just taken off from there. But that's not how it happened. That's not how the story played out. But we would move our stuffed animals in a way, and then we'd set the intentions and ask the spirits to move them. We always wanted to somehow interact with the spirits and have this larger than life moment of validation that they were there and they were in the room watching us. That was just our thing. It's very odd for kids to do, but it was our thing. And I think about the lamp incident when we were kids. Yeah. I've talked about that before on here, but if not, the lamp incident, I think is profound because that one, it had to be a spirit, right? Yeah. And I think too, we would ask for things and we would want the evidence and we would want to experience it ourselves, go beyond the TV shows we'd watch, right? With Paranormal Investigations, America's Most Haunted, Most Terrifying Places on Earth. I just think about The Haunting of Paranormal State, Celebrity Ghost Stories, like all those shows. We wanted to immerse ourselves in that. Then there's that time when we were kids where Lacey's lamp turned on all by itself when we were both in the bedroom alone, and we both just looked at each other, screamed, and ran out of the room. I think that reaction is the best too, because now we don't scream at every weird thing that happens to us. But I do think about times when you have those jump scares where you don't expect it, where you're like, that's not what I meant, spirit, right? I think it's hilarious to look back on because I'm sure spirit was thinking, come on, she just wanted one little thing and now I just turned the light on and they scream and ran. They're like, she couldn't handle it. I'm like, I asked you to move my stuffed animal, not turn on a lamp. Like they used all of their power to turn on that lamp and give us that external validation. Now it makes me laugh because I think it's a really cool story, but I also think that's a really cool spirit sign when they turn on a lamp. It's not as simple as, oh, I think I'm losing my mind and something moved on me. And then when I went through my spiritual awakening early on, they would use lamps all the time to communicate with me. So it became a normal thing for like night lights or lamps to flicker or lights that never work to just start flickering on. People would be like, what? That lamp doesn't work. And I'd be like, oh, it works around me. Don't worry. My EMF is extremely high. We've always had this passion for Halloween and a passion for ghosts and paranormal, and it's always been a big part of our personality. I think that even when we were kids, I know we would always save up birthday money to buy Halloween decorations or costumes this time of year. And I feel like even as adults, we still wait for this time of year to go to Home Goods or go Halloween shopping, find a spirit Halloween store or something, and take a look at what they have going on. I also think it's important to note that we really had very paranormal origins to our spiritual awakenings and our upbringing. And that used to be something where when we went through our Starseed awakening, we felt like the path split a little bit. Like we moved a little bit out of paranormal and more into our Starseed work. But really, in hindsight, as we looked at this now, they're really not that much different because people still consider UFOs and aliens or ETs, aka light beings and star beings, as these paranormal topics. So, really, our Starseed work never actually got out of the paranormal. It just took a different focus and lens to our paranormal work and understanding how we work, how we are as investigators, but also how we interact with different interdimensional beings that aren't necessarily human anymore. So it wasn't until we actually went to the Sacred Spirit Retreat where we had somebody that said, I don't think your Starseed work is out of the paranormal field. I think it's technically still part of the paranormal field. It's just looking to change your perception on those two things and that they are still related. I feel like that was such a powerful realization we had there because for a while it felt so much like we were just trying to come into our own and show our authenticity and show our passion and show our mission and purpose. And I felt like the masses of people, I felt a little bit like, I don't want to say they shame you for having paranormal origins, but I felt a little bit like there was this judgment maybe coming from some. I'm just talking about in general, the masses and mainstream media that are into mainstream topics. So I feel like it was really important for us to go through that and learn that as we forged our path as Starseed Lightworkers. And really now we're to the point where it's like, no, this is a big part of who we are and it's not outside that spectrum. And I think it's really cool that we get to create the space that we want it to be and have the focus on what we want it to be. Yes, I also think that it's about how we want to interact with the paranormal.
Yes.
A lot of the mainstream stuff is really your run of the mill haunted houses or helping people that are going through hauntings or they have a demonic, negative, dark presence in the home. And it's really these buzzwords and clickbait stuff to get views and really perpetuates these ideologies of all this negativity in the paranormal field. And it's only ghosts or demons. And it's really not all those things. That's just the mainstream stuff that people see the most or that makes it to broadcast TV and streaming services. So other avenues of paranormal really are looking more at those ET experiences, UFOs, unexplained experiences, interdimensional beings, cryptids, occult, like all of those beings. Now we're in a position where we're way more comfortable with our Starseed Lightworker identities and understanding where that fits into paranormal, but doesn't necessarily run all of our work anymore. We still love investigating, but we're not just solely investigating anymore. It's been a really interesting full circle journey. We did used to feel like there were the light workers and then there was the paranormal and there was no in between. I'm talking about it felt like there was like a judgment or a divide, like you can only be one. And Lacey and I are like, what if we dabble in both? What if we fit in both? And what if we want to reinvent our own definition of it? Yes. It doesn't need to be this choice. And that's where we've reached that point now, which I think is a really cool full circle moment for us because it is hard, I think, when you're trying to fit yourself into a box. Definitely. That leads into our story of even creating Polter. Oh, yes. I mean, if you don't know from social media, Polter is our little stuffed ghost plushie. And he is a little creation that we made early on in Twin Essence. And he serves as our little travel mascot, we call him, because anytime Lacey and I travel, so if you follow along Starseed Travels, where we create our little vlogs talking about our different spiritual experiences and energetic experiences, we tend to take Polter with us, and we really capture that. We capture the travels through Polter. So that's where we share a lot of Instagram stories and things like that with Polter. But it was a really cool process creating him because there's a lot of ghost characters out there, right? Like you think about Casper and other just ghost characters that people create for their own shows or conferences, things like that. So we wanted to make sure we could create our own original one. We had our image in our mind and just picked the pieces out intuitively. His name, I mean, the name is just pure genius, I think. Polter, as in poltergeist, meaning he's a mischievous ghost he is a fun little character. Yes. We love bringing him on site when we're traveling because he really is like our little bookmarker for our travels. And I also just have to say, people do look for it when we travel. Yes. Because you see the likes jump on our stories when we're traveling. And the first picture where it's like, where are they going? Where are they going? Oh, and the first picture, I'll never forget popping him up in Ireland when we went to the Book of Kells experience, where we were in the Trinity College Long Library that's very famous. Bram Stoker studied there, and I popped him up in that library, took a picture, and then I put that Dracula music on, and it was like, now we know where they are. It was really fun. It's fun to bring him places. We still like using him as our travel blogger. That's honestly the only energy that we have to spend posting when we're traveling is just a picture of him, a tag of a location, because we don't want to live on our phones when we're living in the moment and traveling. Then I also think about the story of the ghost that we got when we were kids. Yes. So our little ghost plushie beanie baby type ghosts when we were kids that had pumpkins on them. We were obsessed with these ghosts growing up. One day came home from school. Our parents had treated us and we found the ghost plushies. We each had one on our beds and we named him Ghosty. Of course, they're both named Ghosty. I don't know how we came up with that. I think his beanie baby name is Ghoulish. It doesn't fit his personality at all. No, but the point is, we were literally kids begging our parents to get us a ghost stuffed animal. Just weird things like that were definitely breadcrumbs for later in our path and what we end up doing. We still pull out those plushies every year, like, especially when September hits. And it just makes us laugh a little bit about that time when you were a kid and what a big deal it was to you, but it still again relates back to that paranormal path of ours and our spirituality always being an underlying theme. If you haven't been able to figure out already the theme of this episode, as it is hosting on Halloween, and we are sharing our stories of Halloween growing up, breadcrumbs that led us here, our journeys with the paranormal, how our Starseed work still relates to the paranormal, it would not be a fun Halloween episode without sharing and telling some of our very own paranormal stories that will be very exciting to share because we still get asked a lot about sharing our paranormal experiences. And a lot of our fun paranormal experiences have actually happened while we were traveling. They have. So it really does relate to that Starseed stuff. It does, but I love our paranormal experiences. As we say, spirits will find us wherever we go, wherever we stay. Doesn't have to be a mainstream haunted location. They find us, we find them. And the first story I want to talk about, because it relates so heavily to Twin Essence as a business, is our first branding photo shoot, which actually took place a couple days before Halloween. And it was beautiful. Beautiful weather in Wisconsin. The trees are at an all-time peak with the colors. And when we had planned for this branding photo shoot, we had no idea what location we were going to do it at. We just had images in our mind that Spirit shared with us of what it could look like. So when we talked to our photographer, she provided us a couple location options after going through what kind of images we'd be looking for. She had brought forward the Wauwatosa Sanctuary Woods. And the minute we had gone to that website or the link that she shared with us, and we had seen the photos of the sanctuary woods and saw the crumbling remains of a beautiful staircase, which was the images Spirit showed us. It was game over. We knew we were going there. And this location, of course, was remains of the Milwaukee County Hospital, and it was haunted. It was the coolest thing ever, especially for our first ever branding shoot. When we saw the pictures of the former hospital on the grounds, we were so sold on that thing. We just wanted to be there. It ended up being a really fun experience that was very eventful because it was very haunted there. And it was very beautiful. All the photos that you see of us in those yellow leaves in the woods and on these cement steps, those are all from the former grounds from that very first photo shoot. We ended up getting locked out of our car at that photo shoot. And it was cold, by the way. Oh, it started to get really cold later in the day. You look at us in those pictures and you're like, oh, like jeans, boots, little jackets. It was actually really freaking cold. And one day later, it snowed. Like, we were lucky we actually got the shots when we did. I feel like it was like by Halloween. Yes, it snowed. The point is, we were actually going to do some studio shots after that. And when we got ready to leave, I couldn't even get in my car. The EFOB battery was dead, which has never happened. And I knew it was the spirits. I knew it was because they didn't want us to leave. And they also were kind of mad that we were like just taking pictures and not just talking to them and pulling out equipment to talk with them and doing an investigation, so to speak, and communicating with them more. So we ended up being able to get a battery to replace it and getting into our car and finishing the session. But it was really funny. We ended up going back to the location to just talk to the spirits and pay our respects to them because it was very haunted and we knew they wanted to talk to us. But we were in the middle of a photo shoot that we had to get done because quite literally daylight was burning and it was cold. Yes. It was a really cool experience, though, to be able to say, yeah, the spirits definitely drained that battery on us, as they often do at haunted locations. And that's how we knew we were aligned. We were at the right place, taking the right photos, doing the right thing. I also think about our experiences abroad. And in particular, we'd gone on a couple paranormal based trips. Great experiences at these trips, amazing paranormal experiences, and really great catalysts, I would say, on our spiritual development journeys. In particular, I am thinking about Sterling Jail, where there was poltergeist activity. Sterling Jail was really its own beast. I mean, I've never felt the low vibration that I felt being in that jail. I just remember it was so new to me at the time and being like, wow, there's some really angry spirits here, and it's a lot darker than what I'm used to. I remember sitting in that one room and the lights were flickering. Oh, yes. Because they have a poltergeist there that likes to move things and turn the lights on and off. And it was a very intense experience. That was also one of the first times I can say when I've gone on a paranormal investigation and I actually was touched. It was rare. It's rare that I get touched now. At the time, it was rare that I would ever get touched by spirits. And I remember distinctly getting touched, and it had chose me. It wanted me to go first in the activity and experiment that we were going to be doing. I do remember doing an experiment where we were in different jail cells, like the groups, and we were in one and communicating with it. I distinctly remember there was a third spirit in the room that we were struggling to communicate with and tap into. And when one of our other psychic mediums on the trip walked into the room, they were really freaked out because they were like, they're trying to form a triplet of you and they were trying to mimic us. And he was really freaked out by it. That's what I remember. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been trying to figure out what that other thing in this room is. I can't figure out what it is. And it must be because it's trying to mimic me and mask itself. So it was just a very intense energy. It was the first time I really channeled where something stepped in to me and wanted to channel through me, but my spirit team didn't like the aggressive low vibration of the individual doing it, so they were pushing him out, and he did not like it. He wanted control over the whole situation. So that was the first time I've channeled that way, where it just moved through me in a very physical way. So it just was a very new experience at Sterling Jail, and we learned a lot about our spiritual development when we were there as new mediums at the time. Another one in Scotland we did that I feel like had really great activity with Bannockburn House. And in this location, if you Google it, it's like your classic haunted mansion. It was incredible. I remember there was a lot of activity in the kitchen. There was also a lot of activity just in the downstairs in general, the hallway too there. I remember there being a lot of activity. And I distinctly remember, again, this touching theme going on for me in Scotland when we had done the paranormal investigations there. I remember getting pulled on and tugged on, clothing getting tugged on by children there. And we had some really interesting interactions with imps there. I just remember being so engrossed in these EVP sessions where we would be hearing responses on the recording and playing them back. And then as we'd be talking, no equipment needed, we would be getting answers from things. We would just hear things coming through because we'd be so engrossed into the consciousness and the energetic level that the spirits were on that we could start to hear them with no equipment. Those were definitely the days where we had more dark, negative experiences. I don't even like calling them negative, but they were just darker experiences that helped us understand our own power and how to protect yourselves better. I always say sometimes you have to understand the dark before you can understand the light, but it wasn't anything bad. They were just darker interactions that I don't look back on liking, but at least it taught me something and I understood how to protect myself better and that I am more powerful than whatever this is. I do remember hearing a woman speak out loud, like a woman started talking when we were in a group, and a couple of us being like, "Oh my gosh," and asking like who it was in the group, and everyone in that group being like, "We never said anything. What are you talking about? I didn't hear a voice." It was because there's something that happens when you're doing paranormal work or any kind of spiritual work where you reach the vibration that the spirit you're communicating with is on, and then you're more likely to hear audible voices from that spirit or noises and sounds. And I remember that was one of the things we experienced there where we heard a woman talking. It was because we genuinely already were on that vibration level of speaking to this female spirit and helping her. It was insane. Was that the location where the imp was like creeped out? Remember that audio? Yes. Like over this EVP recording that somebody had taken. We were there for that session. There was an imp, clear as day, just saying creeped out. I don't even know. It was really weird. It was like, I just remember nobody else heard it. And then Lacey being like, didn't you just hear it said creeped out, and playing it back and just very clearly hearing it say it? It was crazy. Yeah, that was kind of a creepy experience, actually. Our favorite of all time, I think, so far is Blackwater Castle in Ireland. That was the haunted castle that we stayed at for 3 days, including Halloween night last year. We had the most profound spiritual experiences there, including seeing physical apparitions in ways that we had never seen them before. Oh, it was right from the start. We just knew, man. It was fate. We got assigned that bedroom, and I mean, she started off very strong, locking us out of the room at first, and we had to really plead with her and work with her until she finally opened it. And then I didn't sleep that whole first night we stayed there because it was so active. I just couldn't believe it. You hear the stories, you see it on TV, and then it was like, I couldn't believe it was happening. I mean, I remember the minute everybody went to bed in that castle, and there's no staff in the castle, mind you. It was just people that we were on this group trip with. So everybody had gone to bed, nobody's walking the hallways. And I just remember instantly, the Lady Roche room is right next to the tower in the castle, instantly hearing the steps on the tower, going up and down the staircase, and then hearing the disembodied voices talking and mumbling on the staircase. It was crazy. Then naturally, Lady Roche entered the room and continued to freak me out most of the first night because she did not have a welcoming energy. I felt she did not want us there. She was very much monitoring, and I kept getting woken up. I kept getting this rush of her energy waking me up. And at one point in the wee hours of the morning, I opened my eyes and I saw her apparition in this blue-gray, translucent, glowing light almost. Her face, and it just moved and disappeared. And it was so profound to me. We were so lucky that we got to stay in the Lady Roche room, which is the most haunted room next to the tower over Halloween too. The first night she was suspicious. The second night she was fine. The third night she like woke us up at 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. to do a night walk to the castle because we talked about doing that. So we liked that. But she was used to us by then. But yeah, it was active. You could hear things in the tower all night. The third night I woke up and saw her blue-gray, like iridescent outline standing in the corner of our room, and it fades so quick. Yeah, when you see it, the moment you realize and your brain processes it, it's like that's when it moves and vanishes. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity that we happened to be assigned that room. It was so fun. We also heard chanting in the tower, and yes, we did. We had heard like drumming too, because there was definitely some battles there. It was a very profound experience that we'll never forget, and one of our favorite stories. Those of you that might be new to us, we do have videos of the castle on our social media where you can check out reels that we made of our stay there and pictures and things. So definitely take a look at some of that if you're interested in it. The last story we have is about Wicklow Jail in Ireland. This location is a very haunted, well-known one in Ireland. Lots of different spirits there between former prisoners and former individuals that worked there. I remember when we had gone downstairs to the dungeon. Sounds really dramatic calling it the dungeon. It's not what it sounds like. It's very small though, and there was solitary confinement cells and things down there. I remember actively experiencing channeling in a different way at that location. That was the first time I had actually started channeling where spirit would just rock my body. It's a very common thing in mediumship, but it had never happened to me before until I had gone to Wicklow Jail. Now it happens all the time in probably most haunted locations I go to. If I start channeling spirits, spirit just starts moving me with it. But that was a very interesting experience, I felt like, where we had kind of a small group and tried to connect and communicate with the prisoners there. And I feel like everywhere we go, we also try to cross individuals over and bring light and prayers and healing to them, because that's always an undercurrent and a theme. Do you still channel that way too in twin magic readings sometimes? Yes, I do. I find it's like a movement thing. They just move me in it. It's how I know I get into the zone. It happens especially in like Starseed journeys sessions that I do and things. Like if I start really getting into the astral realm, I just have to let my physical body go with it. In general, I think that a lot of our profound paranormal experiences have been abroad and while traveling, and they've really helped us with our spiritual development. It's how we got here, right? It's how we got to do our Starseed light work. So we have a ton of appreciation for it. We love it. We still have a lot of fascination with that world, and it's possible we're still going to do a lot more in it, and we still will continue to, as we continue to redefine it and put our own spin on what we believe it is and what we believe the direction is for it to go. Hopefully you've enjoyed hearing some of our paranormal experiences, and maybe you even have your own spiritual or paranormal experiences to reminisce on as we celebrate Halloween. And if you have a haunted location that you think we'd be interested in visiting or checking out, definitely send us a message because we'll add it to our list. Or drop it in the comments. We are always loving when people reach out with locations or things in mind they think we should travel to. With that in mind, make sure you protect yourselves energetically. Make sure you stay curious about the experiences and the spirits that you encounter. And we hope you have an amazing Halloween with your own stories to make.